What is going on, guys? It is Justin back here with another video, and today I wanted to try something a little bit different with my WWE reviews. So today we are doing something I like to call WWE a week in review. We are going to review Raw, and then we are going to move on to Smackdown. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to shut up and we're going to get right into this. So first off, obviously Raw comes on Monday, so we're going to start with Raw first. Beginning with Raw, we had Jey Uso and the New Day versus Gunther and Imperium. And this match is really good. It was obviously Jey Uso and the New Day versus Gunther and Imperium. The match was good. Gunther, hard hitter like always. Jey Uso was really the only one that brought the fight to Gunther. But ultimately it ended up with Jey Uso and the New Day hitting Giovanni Vinci with a 1D. And Giovanni Vinci took the pin for it. Now, Jey Uso was the one that pinned him. But with this, I could see them setting up for Jey Uso versus Gunther. Now, it was confirmed next week on Raw, we are going to have Jey Uso versus Gunther for the championship. Now, I think this can lead to either one or two things. It can either lead to Jey versus Gunther at WrestleMania for the championship, or Jimmy Uso can interfere in Jey's Intercontinental Championship match and give us Jimmy versus Jey at WrestleMania. Now, this is probably unlikely since we haven't seen Jimmy and Jey cross paths since the Rumble, but who knows? It would be interesting to see what they do with it. Next up, we had Andrade talking about how he started wrestling when he was 13, won his first championship at 15. He won United States Championship at WWE, won NXT Championship. Then he had to leave for a couple of years just to find who he was. And he finally found who he was, and now he's back and he knows what he needs to do. But he didn't say what he needed to do. So that's kind of like the cliffhanger they left us on. Next up, we had Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed for a spot in the Elimination Chamber match. So this was an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. And I thought it would make sense if Bronson Reed would have won, because obviously Reed is from Australia. But it makes more sense that Lashley won since he's more of a heavy hitter and more of a main eventer than Reed. No offense to Reed. I'm sure he'll get there one day. But Bobby Lashley took the win on this. Next up, we had Sami Zayn doing an interview with Jackie Redmond, and Shinsuke Nakamura interrupted, and he was basically saying, like, Sammy used to be so good, like, this and that, and now you're going back to your old ways. Now, this feud, I'm really excited for it, because obviously we all know the history with Sami Zayn and Shinsuke. Back in 2019, 2018, 2020, basically, they were a team, and I believe Shinsuke was the champion before Sami Zayn. Then Strowman took the championship off of Shinsuke, and then Sami Zayn won it. So yeah, very interesting to see what they're going to do with this. Next up, we had Cody and Seth one-on-one talking, and Cody was very funny. He was talking about what The Rock said on Pat McAfee's show, how if you're Cody Crybaby, you take chicken nuggets and you shove it up a booty hole. And he was talking to Pat McAfee about it. And it was just a very funny scene. Then Seth Rollins comes out and he says, Cody, I want you to finish your story. They want you to finish the story. Well, what's your plan, man? Like, what are you going to do if the same thing happens to you at WrestleMania that happened last year? Basically, Rollins said, I'm sorry for what I've created. Roman Reigns is one of the main reasons. I'm one of the main reasons why he is what he is. I betrayed him 12 years ago. I taught him everything I know. And most of this is my fault. So I'm going to be in your corner at WrestleMania. That's basically what he said. But me, personally, I am hoping this is setting up for the tag team match at WrestleMania. Rock and Roman versus Seth and Cody. That would be really cool. And it got announced that Gunther versus Jey was happening next week on Raw. Then we had Liv Morgan versus Zoe Stark with a very good match. But ultimately, this was an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Liv Morgan beat Zoe Stark with the Oblivion. Next up, we had a segment with R-Truth and Judgment Day. Truth came up thinking he was in the Judgment Day. He was talking to him, and obviously they went off on him. And we ended up having Truth versus JD. Oh, sorry, that's not JD. Truth versus JD. And before Truth went out, he called the Miz, and he was like, Miz, Judgment Day is going to kill me, man. I need you to come and help me, which was very funny. So then, ultimately, JD ended up winning the match against R-Truth, and the Judgment Day ended up attacking JD. I mean, the Judgment Day ended up attacking R-Truth, but, remember how Damian Priest said he'd never wanted to touch R-Truth? Well, he basically laid his hands on R-Truth, and he's like, I'm done with this, I'm done with you. So I'm hoping this is setting up for Awesome Truth versus the Judgment Day at WrestleMania. Then, after that, DIY came out to help R-Truth, and we proceed on to a promo from Becky Lynch, talking about how she had to talk to her daughter about why Mommy's face is always bloody, and why her dad wants to fight Maui. And ultimately, she got interrupted by Nia Jax. Jax was putting on the show, saying, like, I wish I had a mom like you when I was little. If my mom was half the mom you were, if God be, I'll be a mom one day. And then she said, but I'm going to beat Rhea Ripley at the Chamber, and you're going to be fighting me at WrestleMania. And Ripley came out, and she told Nia Jax, you better hope you kill me, because I'm not stopping until I'm done with you. So then, ultimately, Jax beat up Becky and Rhea, basically, and that was the end of the segment. Next up, we had Drew McIntyre basically talking to Cody Rhodes. He was saying, like, you know, you already got a bunch of stuff on your plate, Cody. Like, you don't want to come up against me next week, because I'll probably beat the living hell out of you. And you won't have a spot at WrestleMania anymore. So then after that, we got to this backstage segment where Truth came up to DIY, and he was like, man, this is so awesome. I've never been saved by DX before. And then he called Johnny Gargano, Shawn Michaels, and Tommaso Ciampa, Triple H, which I can see what he meant by Ciampa. Ciampa does look like Triple H. This was just a funny backstage segment. Next up, we had LA Knight versus Ivar for the Elimination Chamber qualifying match, and LA Knight comes out with the win, which I was very happy about that. LA Knight's one of my favorites. Next up, we had a backstage segment with Chelsea Green, and I believe it was Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, and Indy Hartwell, and then Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, and they're basically having a battle royal next week, so for the last person to qualify for the Chamber. Next up, we had Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke in the main event. The match was going good. A lot of near falls, near pins. It was a very good match. Ultimately, Drew came out, cost Sami the match. Shinsuke won. And after that, Cody came out and started helping Sami, and him and Drew brawled before their match next week on Monday. So yeah, that was ultimately what happened on Raw. I thought Raw was very good this week. Very interesting. I love the road to WrestleMania. I've said this plenty of times. So many good stories building up. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. Next up, we're going to the Smackdown side of things. Starting off with Smackdown, we had Dominic Mysterio, who came out, and he was saying, like, Damian Priest and Finn Balor, they're going to beat Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate at the Elimination Chamber, but he was getting booed like he always does. But it was Dominic Mysterio versus Kevin Owens, and ultimately Kevin Owens came out with the win, which was expected. It would have been kind of interesting to see Dominic in the match, but, you know, I'm not mad. So this was an Elimination Chamber qualifying match, and Kevin Owens won it. Next up, we had this awesome backstage segment between Drew McIntyre and LA Knight. Drew was talking about how everything was taken away from him, and basically LA Knight came up to him and he called him a crybaby. And he was like, you see this shirt? How you sitting next to CM Punk's grave? He said, I could fit one more name up there, DM Hunk. And they started getting this big brawl, and it was insane, but it was really entertaining at the same time. Next up, we had Tiffany Stratton versus Zelina Vega. And Zelina Vega was doing really good in this match, but ultimately she got interrupted by Elektra, and Tiffany Stratton took a hold of that interruption, and she came away with the win. So Tiffany Stratton qualified for the Women's Elimination Chamber match. Next up, we had, which is probably one of my favorite factions in WWE right now, the Final Testament, They went one-on-one with some jobbers. I couldn't find a picture of the jobbers, but it was AOP versus jobbers, and AOP came out with the win. Next up, we had Logan Paul backstage with Byron Saxton before he was going to his match with The Miz, and he was saying, like, you guys can thank me for signing full contract. I'm basically the only champion fighting now. This was actually Logan's first TV appearance, I believe, like, fighting TV appearance, so that's pretty cool. Next up, we had Logan Paul versus The Miz for an Elimination Chamber qualifying match, and Logan Paul comes out with the win. Next up, we had a backstage segment with Bronson Reed, Jade Cargill, and Bianca and Liv were back there too. Tiffany came back. She's like, what's one of you guys I'm going to have to beat at the Elimination Chamber because I'm used to this. I'm trying to figure out who I need to pin. And, it was just a whole thing, but very interesting. Next up, we had Naomi versus Elba Fire for an Elimination Chamber women's qualifying match, and Naomi came away with the win. Naomi also has a new theme song, which it's kind of iffy. I liked her old song better because it just made you, like, get into the groove. It was kind of cool. But yeah, Naomi came away with the qualifying spot for the Elimination Chamber. Next up, Nick Aldis came out, and he announced that Braun Breaker has signed to Smackdown, so that's very cool. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Braun Breaker and Corbin now that they are tag team champions, but Breaker is on Raw, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Next up, we had a backstage segment with Bayley and Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai basically came to Bayley. She's like, I need your help. Like, Io Sky, Asuka, Kairi Sane, they all said they're going to, like, beat me up. I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need you on my side. And Bayley's like, well, how am I supposed to know that you're not lying to me? Like, and I could see where Bayley's coming from because she doesn't know if Dakota Kai's lying to her or not. But who knows? It's a very interesting story, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Next up, we had one of the cool segments. We had the Bloodline come out, and Roman was talking about how he's pissed, basically, that Cody ruined the biggest main event in WrestleMania history. We won't be able to see Rock versus Roman, which is kind of sad. I've been wanting Rock and Roman for a long time, but I also like Cody, and I do want to see Cody finish the story. So, yeah. After that, they were talking about the newest member of the Bloodline, and The Rock comes out. And my God, guys, we have Hollywood Rock back, and I am so happy. He went off on the Utah crowd, because I believe Utah is the only place where you can have more than one wife. And Rock was like, you can go home and tell all your 50 wives you just seen The Rock. And then he said something like, you could tell all your 60 inbred grandchildren that you guys have just seen The Rock. And it's just very hilarious. And then he called a guy out in the crowd. he said something like, keep talking smack, fatty, or I'll come smack you in the face. Like, this is The Rock I miss. Like, because obviously I'm happy we had The Rock back a couple months ago, but that was the nice Rock. Mean Rock is very awesome, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, SmackDown ended with everybody putting their ones up, but people have been pointing this out. The Rock, he's holding up an L. Now, this could just be the way he puts up a 1. I think people are digging too far deep into this, but I don't know. He's putting up an L and he's standing next to Roman, so who knows? Maybe this was a part of him and Cody's plan the whole time, infiltrate the Bloodline and take down Roman Reigns, but I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with it. I think it's just the way he puts up a 1, but yeah. That was our week in review of WWE. Raw and SmackDown were very, very good this year. Not year. This week. My God, my head is in a big mess up. Raw and SmackDown were very, very good this week. I can't wait till next week, and I just can't wait till we get to WrestleMania. I can't wait to see what the WrestleMania setup looks like. And 2K24 is coming out in a couple of weeks, and it was confirmed that we had The Fiend Bray Wyatt in there, you guys, so I'm so happy. You guys know Fiend's my favorite wrestler. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown this week down in the comments below. As always, you guys, stay groovy, stay safe, and keep your people safe. And remember, God is good all the time. It has been Justin, and I'm out. Peace.